spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome back, everybody, to Breakfast with Bob, our Not Quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are brought to you by Master Spas. As fuels go longer, Hoka Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, DeBoer Wetsuits, Quintana Roo, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, two-time bronze medalist at the Ironman World Championship, simply one of our favorite people to chat with. Mr. David McNamee joins us. How you doing, David?
Good. Thank you very much for the introduction. It always makes me sort of blush a little bit. But yeah, I'm good. I'm just sort of, getting ready to set off to America. Unfortunately, not Hawaii this year, but yeah, Chicago this Sunday for the PTO Milwaukee race, the U.S. Open. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a battle against, I think, probably the strongest field that could be assembled this year.
Will you also go to Singapore as part of the PTO events?
Yeah, so I'll go to Singapore 2 weeks later. So that means I'll have done Ibiza, Milwaukee, and Singapore. So all three of them. And I chose that because I think this year they have the strongest fields.
Yes.
And I wanted, as an athlete, you always want to go up against the best in the world. And I think with the PTO, it's a very exciting mix because you have obviously the middle distance specialists like Frederick Funk, but then you have the guys from Ironman dropping down like Braden Curry, and then you have the Olympic distance guys moving up, sort of like Martin Van Ryle is racing both the US Open and the Asian Open. And then also you have Christian Blumenfeld, who I think is just like the king of triathlon, so he's just dominant at everything. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of seeing how I stack up against the best in the world.
And a little bit of Jan Frodeno as well.
Yeah, of course, you can't forget Jan, and obviously you've got Tim O'Donnell. I think you've got, there's 30 guys in the start line, and I think maybe there's a couple missing, but it's probably the 30 best athletes in the world.
So normally you'd be gearing up for Kona, and obviously you've had so much success there, 2 bronze medals at that event. This year, the Worlds is going to be in Nice, and that course, lots of up, lots of down. You made a decision not to go there. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually went through to Nice like 2 or 3 years ago to test the course out because Nice has always fascinated me.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the big historic races that we have in the circuit. And it's something that I'd have loved to have done, but I rode the course 3 times in 4 days. And it's not a course for me. Like 10 years ago, I had a bad accident on the bike, and I ended up having like 2 operations to try and save the ability to move my hand. For a short time, my fingers were completely paralyzed, and we never actually knew at the time whether I'd actually ever be able to sort of get any mobility back in my hand, never mind the degree that I have. But unfortunately, it's left me with permanent damage in my sort of wrist, and my nerves are damaged. And over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, they've gradually got worse again. And I'm at that situation where I can only describe it as when I'm on my bike, my hand sort of feels frozen. I don't have full control at times of what my hand is doing.
Right.
And of course, like 99% of the races we do, it's fine because they aren't technical.
Right.
But I've been to Nice, I've tried the course, and I respect the course. But I also have to think what's best for my health.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm trying to race down a mountain not knowing fully what I can do on that day. Because again, I have good days, I have bad days with my hand. But on my bad days, I very much struggle going down a hill. And I don't want to put myself and my safety in that situation.
Of course.
So yeah, it was a tough decision. Obviously, Ironman is what I'm known for. I want to be up racing against the best in the world. But yeah, uh, I just know, unfortunately, that I don't have that skill set anymore to keep myself within the best in the world, but also to be safe.
Exactly.
Like
So,
I could
yeah.
go down the mountain, but I could lose 15 minutes going down the hill.
Right. Yeah. Well, and let's talk about, so that race, who do you think, because you've always been such a good prognosticator of who's going to do what. Last year before St. George, we were chatting and you were like, I know everybody's thinking this course is so brutal, but there's going to be 6 or 7 guys under 8 hours. Someone's going to go sub 750. And you were absolutely spot on. Exactly what was going to happen happened. So when you look at this Nice course, how do you see that race playing out, knowing who the players who are going to be there?
To be honest, I would say this year we might actually have the first sort of French champion. I think Leon Chevalier.
Yeah.
I know everybody might go for Sam Laidlaw, but I'd probably go for Leon. I know how good he is on courses like that. He's won Embrunman, he's won Alpe d'Huez. And then obviously Sam Laidlaw, depending on how he's recovered from his injury.
Right.
And then Magnus. And that's sort of my podium pick, is
Those
that
are
I think there'll be 2 French and a Dane.
very cool. I like that. So for the knowing that you're focusing now on the U.S. Open, the Asian Open, these are shorter than 70.3 races. How have you had to adapt your training to these faster, quicker events, knowing you're going against Olympic champions and some of the best short course athletes on the planet?
Yeah, it's been actually sort of good fun. I'm lucky enough that in June I train with the Joel Filial training group. So that's guys like Vincent Louis, Yela Jengs, Vasco Verlacha, the best of the best at ITU.
Yeah.
So it's been fun, sort of. I've always did a little bit of training with them, but I've got more involved over the last 6 to 9 months as they try and sort of get more competitive at the shorter distance races. So it's been sort of good fun being on the running track with them and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I don't have their speed, but yeah, it's been exciting. It's a very much different type of training. I'd forgotten just how much pain you can put yourself over like a 400-meter running rep.
Yep.
But yeah, it's sort of been really exciting. To be honest, it's been a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, because you think about it, a lot of times you sort of fall into the trap of just doing long and saying, well, I'm an Ironman guy, I'm just going to do long stuff. But it can make it a lot more fun doing shorter things and just getting that snap back in your legs. And that's certainly going to help when you go back to Kona in 2024.
Yeah, I think so. And I think just the way the racing's going, it's getting quicker and quicker. Last year we saw in Kona that sort of, I think the top 10 guys broke 8 hours. The top 4 guys broke the course record. You have Gustav running a 2:36, and yeah, you need some leg speed to run a 2:36. So yeah, I think it's very much now you need speed across all distances to compete at anything.
Was it tough last year, like, because you had St. George in May, that's a world championship, and then coming back to Kona in October, getting ready for 2 world championship Ironman races in the same year? I mean, you were 9th, you're top 10 in St. George. And it's funny, before the race, if someone said, guy's going to run 246 off the bike and he's going to go 804, I would have said, hey, he's going to be on the podium. You're 804 and you're 9th. It's like, wow, that's a different game. But was it tough to come back from that to try to gear up for Kona?
I think looking back,
Yeah,
my biggest mistake was after the first World Championships, I should have almost taken like an end of season break.
yes.
And then instead of trying to fill the season with other races, almost just focused on the 2 events and that's it.
Yes.
Because I got to the point by August, my body was starting, I'm not young anymore, Bob. I'm
Come
getting
on
there. I'm getting a bit
now.
older. So yeah, I got to the point by sort of, August time, my body was just tired. And then I started to get a little injury. And yeah, I think looking back, that was my biggest mistake. Was I tried to approach it almost like a traditional year, like racing from April till October, November. But the training, the preparation to be at World Championship level in May was a much bigger sort of deal than what winter training usually is. And I think, yeah, again, maybe if I was sort of mid-20s, like Sam Laidlaw, I could have got away with it. But yeah, I'm 10 years older than him, and I don't think I sort of, in my head, I sort of forget that at times.
Well, what's fascinating about that is, think about it, you're racing in early May, which means you're putting in serious training in what? February, March, April,
Yeah.
when you normally be taking some time off.
Yeah, very much so. I think sort of that was it. By January, February, I was doing like really big quality workouts.
Yes.
Because again, it's not like you aren't doing any old race in May. You're racing for a world title.
Right.
And I wanted to be there in the best shape possible. But then I should have taken 2 weeks off, went to Las Vegas, gambled, did all the Vegas stuff. But instead I tried to keep my fitness, and yeah, your body sort of, it catches up on you at times. And that's what happened towards the end of last year for me.
So with Kona in 2015, you're 11th, 2016, 13th, then a huge jump, 17 and 18, you get third. What was the difference between just missing the top 10, 11th, and then 13th the following year, and then basically a breakthrough race in 17? What was the difference between 16 and 17 for you?
I think a couple of things. I think I understood how to train better, as in up until like 15, 16, I just thought an Ironman, you just did as many hours as possible in a week, and that was it.
Right.
Like I was training like 42 hours a week in 2015, 2016. Like that was it. I was tired all the time, but I thought that was Ironman training. Like
right.
I would go out and ride my bike for 5 or 6 hours 3 times a week. And I think the big difference was 17 and 18. And since then, I've learned the benefit of recovery.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest difference, was just, the ability to recover, and realizing Ironman training wasn't about just doing 40-hour training weeks, because, it wasn't sustainable. And I was just getting tired and tireder. And obviously that was reflecting the results.
So when we go into COVID, all of a sudden we come out of COVID and the times are just dropping, like lead. All of a sudden everybody's going so much faster on the bike, on the run. What happened? And was it just people being able to put so much training together without having to worry about, hey, I've got a race coming, I've got a taper, I've got to recover? You were just able to put solid training together for basically 2 years and come out of that with great improvement.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not really too sure about what happened. Obviously, being able to just focus on training was, for a lot of guys, it clearly benefited them. But it's not as if before, like people like Jan and stuff weren't focused on training.
Right.
They were. And to watch Jan's course record get absolutely demolished last year.
Yeah.
Like I knew it would get broken, but not to that extent. But I think the big difference was, it's just the age of the athletes competing.
Coming in,
it's just like, it's not, when I started doing Ironman, the best in the world were like mid-30s, where it's not that anymore. It's 10 years younger. And I think that's just it. Like I see what some of the guys do now in racing, but some guys are doing big, massive performances in Ironman, and 2 weeks later they're able to go and do another race. Like as a guy in the mid-30s, it's impossible, but when you're 23, 24, they can do it. And I think the biggest difference, which really sort of made our sport a lot quicker, is just the age of the athlete. It's 10 years younger now.
It's very true. And you're training, like you said, you're training with Joel's group, Joe Filio's group. Actually, Katie Zafaris is an athlete that I represent, and she trains with that group. Obviously, she's had great success. When you look at these guys, do you look at him and go, okay, who can be really good at long course here? And when you look
Yeah.
at Vincent Louis, I mean, obviously there's all those guys are world-class athletes, and they're going to take the sport to an even the next level.
Yeah, I think so. I think Vincent will see him doing some non-drafting racing over the next couple of years after Paris.
Yeah.
He's incredible. I think his swimming is just, he's the best swimmer in the sport, and he's so strong on the bike that as soon as he moves across, he's going to be sort of challenging for the win from the start.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been training with Martin Van Ryle in the past as well, and I very much think come Chicago next weekend, he's going to be, I think, fighting for the podium, even possibly to win it.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the guys that can give Christian and Magnus a race next weekend. And then you have somebody like Jelle Jens, who I think when he moves over, wow, his running, he's probably the only guy I think that could run with Jason West.
Wow.
And that's the thing. I think any of these guys, if they want to, and that's the thing, it's whether or not you want to move across, that they can be very sort of dangerous.
That's the other side of this. It used to be people, okay, the ultimate goal was go do Ironman. Now with Super League and with the Olympics and now with PTO, that could be the high end. I'm going to go to PTO as my long distance race. That's as far as I need to go.
Yeah, and I think you see that with Katie Safaris. She's a perfect example. I'm sure she could be not maybe not dominant in 70.3, but she could be like one of the best in the world.
No question.
But her focus is the Olympics. She's going to do Super League. She does World Triathlon Series. It is very different now, especially with Super League. They have 4 great events every year, and A, you can make a living from it, and B, it's good fun.
Exactly. So when you what did you gain from training with Jan Frodeno?
I think it is very much about training hard, but then recovery. And I think that was it. It was very much, because at times in 2015 and 16, I was super fit.
Right.
But I just never allowed myself to recover. So I just got more and more tired as the year went on. And I think my biggest breakthrough was just learning that easy days really are easy. That it's fine not to be out cycling every day. Because I think in 2000, I'll be honest, in 2015 and 16, I would cycle every day of the week. I would run between 7 and 10 times a week, and I would swim 5 times a week. So I was incredibly fit just because I could get through all the training, but I just got more and more tired. And when the racing come, there was no spark left. And I think with training with Jan and with Nick Castelline, I was very much, we trained very hard in the hard days, but the easy days were really easy. Like you would maybe just do 1 session easy in the morning, and that was it.
And you learn how to recover, which a lot of people don't know how to do. So this year, you seconded Challenge to Lao. You got 6th at Challenge Championship, 11th PTO European Open, 5th at Clash Miami. So it's been a nice solid season, and you've got these Asian Open and U.S. Open coming up. There really isn't like a full Ironman on your docket, right? Will you do a full anytime this year?
Yeah. So obviously, as you know, I love Kona, and I still very much believe that I can go back and be competitive.
No question.
I know, like, it's obviously getting a younger sport, but I still see, you saw with Sebi last year, it's still possible to be competitive. So my plan is probably to race Ironman Italy.
Oh, sweet.
In September. Okay. Yeah. Probably, I'm still not 100% decided. But yeah, I want to be back in Hawaii next year, Bob. I miss it.
Oh, yeah.
And especially after last year and even 2019, my last 2 races there, I've been broken by the island.
Right.
I don't want to end my career looking back on my last Kona as being a DNF.
Right.
I can only imagine the satisfaction that Sebi got from having such a good race in his final Kona. And that's something that I don't want to look back in Kona with disappointment. It's what brought me into the sport. And I know sort of maybe the older people get sort of slandered for sort of romanticizing it too much, but it is what brought me into the sport. It's the reason that I'm here doing what I'm doing, and it's always going to be the most important event for me. And I very much want to go back and sort of be competitive and be at the pointy end of the race again, and I feel I can. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, in just over 12 months' time, we'll be back in Hawaii together.
It's funny. I was just interviewing another old dog like myself, Scott Tinley, who won the Ironman twice. And, and every year he would be way back and run his way up. And in 1990, he was, probably 35th off the bike, but it was one of those hot years and he ended up second, right? And that's what happens on that course. It's someone like you with your history, with understanding that it's not where you are off the bike, it's where you are at the end of the race, that you can run through the carnage that happens on that course that really you don't see in that many races. That's, I think, what makes Ironman World Championship at Kona so special is you really can't predict what's going to happen on that run.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think now in most Ironman races, see, when I look at Challenge Roth and stuff, and everybody seems very much in control of what they're doing. But you go to Hawaii, you go with the heat and the humidity, and that last 10 kilometers can be absolute carnage. If you get a really hot day out there, there's nothing that you can do to prepare for it.
None.
And I don't think we've not had a really hard day in Hawaii for a while.
Right.
I would love it if next year was really either windy or super hot and humid.
Or both.
Both. Because I think, I look back, I think 2015 was my first Hawaii, and I think that was probably the hottest one I've ever had. And it was the last 10K, it's almost like it's much more mental than it is physical at that last 10 kilometers, because everyone breaks down under that sort of extreme pressure with the heat and the humidity. And it becomes a mental sort of battleground. And when it's like that, it doesn't matter what age you are.
No.
It's very much, yeah. And that's what can be so brutal about Hawaii, but also what makes it so special is that last 10 kilometers. I think some years is probably one of the hardest things you could ever do in sport.
Well, who would ever look at that last 10K last year and go, okay, you got Sebastian and you got Magnus. Magnus is, so much younger. For sure, he's going to, no, not in Kona.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And every other Ironman probably said we wouldn't have got past them.
No way.
And that's the thing. And it's only really Hawaii that provides that opportunity that anything could literally happen over the last 10K. Like, I think I look back in last year, I think, see if the run was an extra kilometer, I think Christian would have been crawling by that point.
No question.
And that's the thing. I saw Christian after the finish line and he was gone. And I think if it had been an extra kilometer, I know how courageous he is and how he's probably mentally toughest guy out there. But I don't even know if he'd have been able to finish the race if it had been an extra kilometer last year.
And that doesn't happen in very many races. You might.
No, I don't think it happens in anything, to be honest. It's just, yeah.
1 minute you're there, and the next minute you barely can see where you're going. Actually, it's a 40th anniversary of the closest male race in history. Dave Scott won by 33 seconds back in 1983. And if you look at photos of him, there's nobody home. If that race was another 100 yards, Scott Tinley's the 1983 Ironman world champion. And he was more worried about people, behind him. Scott Tinley was more worried about people back in third and fourth and potentially catching him. And he didn't realize Dave was collapsing until he came onto a lead drive and saw him basically stagger across the finish line. But what he learned from that was he said that paid dividends, because from then on, he would never, that last 10K, you can make up 15, 20 places. You never know what's going to happen in the last 10K. He learned his lesson from thinking Dave had it to realizing, okay, you know what? I'm always going to fight that last 10K, and that pays dividends in the long run. When you look at Nice, I look at a Cam Wurf, a professional cyclist, and that's a cycling race. Do you see Cam? And he just raced there. I think he was fourth there not long ago. You see him potentially getting a bigger gap, a big enough gap to podium there?
I think, see, if this was like 3 or 4 years ago,
yeah,
I would say Cameron would be in the podium. But I think now I look at somebody like Sam Laidlaw, Magnus Ditlav, Leon Chevalier.
Yeah.
And the standard of cycling has just improved massively in triathlon.
Yep.
And I don't even know if he'll be first off the bike, Cameron, to be honest, in these. We all looked in Hawaii last year and we just assumed Cameron comes off the bike first. It's what he does.
Yes.
And then to watch his course record get absolutely smashed last year by Sam.
Yeah.
Nobody would have expected that. If he said there's a professional cyclist for Team Ineos racing, but he's going to get his ass kicked on the bike, you see no chance.
That's so funny.
And that
just shows you the level,
now,
right?
Yeah.
That's the level.
Yeah. And it's exciting, but yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. I think Cameron will be competitive in Nice, but I can't see him. I'd love to see him in the podium. He's such a great guy for the sport, but I think I'm still going with Sam, Leon, and Magnus.
I love it. That's very cool. David, the key thing is you're healthy and you seem really happy. Yeah. Your training seems like it's going well.
I think that's the key. As you get older, that's the key to success. You have to be happy to keep you in the sport.
No question. And what's going to be fun is these are new races too. It's not like you're going to Milwaukee for the first time, I'm guessing. I don't think you've ever raced in Milwaukee before. Singapore.
No.
These are new locations.
And that's the nice thing. And it's really exciting venues. And that's the cool thing. Like, that's the thing. I think Singapore, I don't know, has it ever been a big triathlon in Singapore? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. This has been the first one.
And to get this sort of opportunity in the first year, it's exciting. And that's the thing. It's sort of, especially with not having Hawaii this year, it's really sort of kept me sort of focused and excited about the sport.
Love it. David, as always, thank you so much for taking time. Always such a treat to chat with you. And hopefully this rest of the season is going to continue to go great. And then you'll have all this speed under your belt as you gear up for Hawaii next year.
Indeed. I think I might have to run sub 230 next year in Hawaii with the progression we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know.
Well, now we got Patrick Lange went Roth, he goes 230. Israel, he goes 230. Yeah. Man, next thing you know, someone's going to be going 225, 226 at one of these races.
And this is it. And I look at somebody like Jason West, and I'll be honest, I raced both in Miami and Ibiza. I think especially in Ibiza, I watched him running past me. And literally, I don't think people understand the level of running that he's at. Like, I would say it was very similar to like Alistair Brownlee style in 2012 Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, he ran over a minute quicker than Christian Blumenfeld in Ibiza, the Olympic champion.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize just that the standard that Jason West is running at. And I don't think it's not going to be until he wins something big that people is going to really appreciate just the incredible run speed that he has. It's sort of like, I see him now on like the same level as Alex Yee and Hayden Wild in the I tier. Wow. And I think that I would say in non-drafting triathlon, he's the best runner we've ever had.
What's going to be fascinating, what we need is for him to win something like the U.S. Open or Singapore for people to really understand how special that kid is.
Oh, no, for sure. And like, he's going from strength to strength. But honestly, like, especially in Miami, because like Jason, I've raced for a couple of years, but not really that much.
Yeah.
But when he ran by me in Miami this year, like, I was shocked. Like, it was incredible. It was beautiful to watch.
Yes.
But it was just like, it was as if he just started the race, basically. He hadn't swam and biked yet.
He just jumped in. He jumped in from the
Yeah,
side
yeah.
of the
Oh,
track.
no, and that's the thing. I think people talk about the incredible bike power of Magnus and Sam, but I think Jason's running's just as good.
No question. Yeah, no, he needs that one big breakthrough race, and that's coming.
Yeah, I think so. And I think sort of if he's off the bike within a minute and a half this weekend or next weekend, he's winning. I think, yeah.
So you got Martin, you Martin Van Riel, Jason West. Is that what you see? And it's obviously,
yeah, and Christian because he's the king of triathlon.
right.
Yeah, and maybe Magnus because you can never count Magnus out, obviously. But yeah, I think if I was to pick top American, I'd go for Jason West.
So where do you see? Because you almost have Sam Long and Lionel Sanders. Those guys have been sort of doing the U.S. and Canada circuit, not going to European Open and things like that. Can they be competitive in a place like Milwaukee or in Singapore?
I don't like to talk bad about the Americans, Bob. I think with Sam and Lionel, they're incredible athletes, but see if they come out of the water 2 minutes behind Magnus and Christian.
Yeah.
Like in America, they can bike up usually easily. But if you're giving somebody like Magnus Ditlav a 2 minute head start on the bike, you may as well just go home.
True. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think Lionel and Sam both could come top 10, maybe get 5th or 6th. But will they ever be leading the race? I don't think so. I just think the front of the race is going so fast.
Yeah.
That if you've got Magnus just sitting at the front, pushing God knows how many watts, like if you're 2 minutes behind out the water, yeah, just stay in transition and yeah.
Have some porridge.
Well, this is it. But no. I think both Sam and they're incredible athletes, but I just think just the nature of the racing and
the sport has changed.
Especially, well, this is it. Now you have complete athletes. Like in the past, you had your Uber bikers, your great runners, the guys that could swim off the front. Now you have guys that do all three.
Yeah, at an Olympic level. Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing.
When you got cyclists going faster than Cam, who's it's not like he's not training with Team Ineos. He's training with the best cyclists in the world, and then he's those guys are riding faster than him. They're swimming as fast as anybody's ever swam, and then they're running ridiculous 2:30s off the bike for a full. It's nutty.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Cameron raced in Ibiza.
Yeah,
and he came out of the water, I think by himself, 30 seconds behind the second pack, but he never even caught the second pack up because everyone's going now 45 kilometers an hour plus.
Yeah,
to go much faster than that is sort of a very difficult thing.
And if you do try to do that, you're not able to run it all.
Well, this is it, and so again, I think with the PTO, when the best athletes in the world are there, you have to be able to swim.
No question.
And this is it. And I think that's always going to be Sam and Lionel's biggest problem. And hopefully they can work together. There'll be a group of them working together.
Right.
But the guys at the front aren't waiting anymore. No. They just go full gas. And that's, it's very much now full gas in the start. And it's great for the sport.
No question. No question. David, thank you so much for taking time. Always a treat to get to see you and chat with you. Best of luck in Milwaukee and in Singapore, brother. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Bob. Speak soon.
David McNamee has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob, our Not Quite Kona edition. We will catch you later. See ya.